Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Truth on the Tracks. I'm Brandon Turbeville, your host. Tonight is Monday, January 25th, 2016, and we have a lot to talk about tonight. The action plan for 2016 now is ramping up. We've been talking about that over the past few weeks about what we're going to do. I have received a number of emails from listeners in regards to that, and we'll talk about that shortly. But the election year now is in full swing with only a week or so to go before the Iowa caucuses. Now, this is important for a number of reasons. Obviously, the selection of a president is always extremely important, and I use the word selection for a reason. But we have a number of candidates out there that we are gravely concerned about. And no one are we more gravely concerned about than the Wicked Witch of the West, Hillary Clinton. And this is the worst of all possible options. Now, as I've said on past shows, we are not endorsing any of the Republican candidates. We are not endorsing Bernie Sanders or Martin O'Malley. We are simply pointing out that the worst of all possible worlds is the psychopath Hillary Clinton, Hitlery Clinton, Slick Hilly, whatever you want to call her. She cannot be allowed to get within 1,000 feet of the White House. That is something that we cannot tolerate. Now, we're going to focus a little bit on Hillary tonight simply because of this important election that's coming up. And we're going to try to get as much information out about her as possible. There's some other things I want to talk about that perhaps I'll try to get into the show later on. Now, as I mentioned, the last few weeks I've been putting out a call for listeners to the show and readers who are interested in building coalitions to send me an email to contact me, and a number of you have done it. If you're interested in doing so, and I will do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. I really encourage all of you to take the initiative on your own to do this. But if you want to email me as well and keep me abreast of what's going on in your general area, then please do. And if you have done so, I will do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. I'm very busy here, but I'll do my best to get back to you. Again, I want to encourage each and every one of you to build these coalitions in your own areas, your own cities, your own neighborhoods, particularly your own cities, your own counties, your state, and then move on to other things. In other words, uniting the different activist groups, activists in general, individuals, organizations, and so forth over a particular issue. You be the go-between, the center of these alliances, that you go forth and you have this united front of gun rights organizations, of vaccine rights organizations, anti-GMO organizations, and that sort of thing. That's what we need to see, and that's what we hope you will be doing. So continue to go through and find the different organizations and groups in your area. Find the individuals of like minds and begin putting them together and telling them, if we can all agree on this one issue, then we can all work together on this one issue and then spearhead that movement in that way. We'll have much, much more to say about that in the near future. And in the next couple of weeks, probably after the Iowa caucuses, we'll have a show that we'll talk about a list of demands that we have for moving forward in 2016. So that will be the key program for you to listen to so you can understand exactly what we're fighting for. This would be our list of demands that I'll be talking about in the near future. And you can take those demands, build a program around those demands, and then unite these organizations around it. And that's what we're going to do. But for now, we need to launch some firepower out here right now against these the Iowa caucus situation. We have all of these candidates gathering now in Iowa, the big battleground in Iowa, and we want to influence that as much as possible. And we are having an influence. I'll mention some positive aspects to elections fairly soon at the end of the show if I can. Now, for those of you who are just joining us tonight for the first time, I'd like to encourage you to follow my work as it comes out in real time over at activistpost.com and naturalblaze.com. And if you're interested in my work specifically, then please go to brandonturbeville.com, and that is the website where I repost all of my articles, all of the YouTube videos, all of the archive versions of this show. All of the relevant information is there. You'll also find books that I've written that are available for purchase, links to the radio show. You'll find a free book, The Difference It Makes, 36 Reasons Why Hillary Clinton Should Never Be President, which you should be getting out to everyone. The hard copy version, the Kindle version, of course the free version is available on Scribd. Go to my website, click on the icon, it'll take you there. Send it out in your email list. Do whatever you can to get this woman, to stop this woman from becoming president. But BrandonTurbeville.com is the website you should be going to at any event to keep up with my work in real time. It gets updated daily, and you can go there to see my more recent articles and all of my more recent work. And, of course, you can catch Truth on the Tracks here every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, with that in mind, we want to mention Hillary Clinton and the bin Laden killing. That's something that she's taken a lot of credit for in the past, but there is much more to that story. Now, we can't do a detailed study of the nature of the alleged killing of bin Laden, but we can say that there's overwhelming and credible evidence suggesting that the entire affair was designed to drum up support for the faltering Obama administration and the faltering war on terror, as well as this phony narrative of the al-Qaeda boogeyman to begin with. And the most damning nail in the coffin of this bin Laden killing official story is that there's quite a bit of evidence that bin Laden was dead long before the alleged killing took place. So we've got evidence that bin Laden was dead shortly after the attacks on 9/11. That's in addition to the fact that we know that bin Laden was a CIA asset that's known in the late 1970s as part of the Mujahideen forces that were organized by Western intelligence to draw the Soviet Union into a disastrous war in Afghanistan. But the narrative that bin Laden was killed by the Obama administration was used to make Obama supporters feel superior to their false dichotomy opponents of the Republicans, and it was to bolster the support of the Obama administration at a time when the cracks were beginning to show in the veneer of the administration. So they set the stage in Pakistan, and the official script was that bin Laden was killed, but his body was dumped into the middle of the ocean in accordance with Muslim burial tradition. Now, aside from the evidence that bin Laden was already dead a long time ago, we could assume that, having killed the most wanted terrorist in the world and one around which so many conspiracy theories, alleged conspiracy theories, circulate, the goal would have been to save the body, test the DNA, do everything humanly possible to confirm the identity of the victim. But instead, we got grainy photos, the announcement that the body had been dumped into the ocean, despite the fact that Muslim traditional burial at sea only applies to individuals who were killed at sea. The world's public, we were forced to simply trust the Obama administration, and they told us the truth. But we also should point out that out of the millions of Muslims killed by the West in the Middle East, few, if any, have ever received a proper burial by the Western forces. So they were never really cared about proper Muslim burial then. Now, we should also point out the members of SEAL Team 6, remember the Navy Special Forces team that was involved in the bin Laden raid, were killed, or not all of them, but many of them were killed in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan, and that would have eliminated many of the voices that could have corroborated or discredited the official operation in the future. Now, Hillary's role in the operation, this is shrouded in political grandstanding. Now, according to her book, Hard Choices, much of that book centered around the bin Laden killing. She bragged about being one of the masterminds of the plan to assassinate the Phantom bin Laden. Right? Her actual role may have been much less significant, but given the fact that the act of propaganda was so well received by the American public, unfortunately, Clinton has aggressively attached herself to it now. You only need to consider how she was presented in the press prior to the release of that infernal book. Look at how the Washington Post describes her. This is a quote. Through weeks of sometimes heated White House debate in 2011, Clinton was alone among the president's topmost cabinet officers to back it. They're talking about the plan to kill bin Laden. Vice President Biden, a potential political rival for Clinton in 2016, opposed it. So did then Defense Secretary Robert M. Gates. What she looks like is someone decisive, smart, and risk-taking in the right way, said Robert Shroom, a top strategist on the presidential campaigns of Al Gore and John F. Kerry. This wasn't about risking thousands or tens of thousands of American troops. This was about taking a risk that, if it failed, would hurt her and the president, but it's the kind of thing you do if you are a president or if you are a Secretary of State. Privately, Republican strategists question whether Clinton is taking more credit than she deserves for the successful raid. But even America Rising, the leading Republican super PAC attacking Clinton in the run-up to 2016, stopped short of publicly criticizing her role in the bin Laden operation. Okay, end quote. Now, much of her involvement in the affair was urban legend, right? The famous photograph of a solemn Hillary sitting in the Situation Room with Obama and Biden and other members of the White House security team, that was repeatedly used by Clinton for political gain. So remember the photo. It showed Hillary with her hand clasped over her mouth. That she looked anxious, like she was watching some horrible or important event. But in true Hillary fashion, her recall shifted depending on the day and depending on the audience being addressed. So early on, when American bloodlust was at its height, she attempted to make herself look stronger by insisting that she was not steeling herself for the horror she was watching, but just covering up a cough. This is what she says. Quote, I am somewhat sheepishly concerned that it was my preventing one of my early spring allergic coughs, so it may have been no great, it may have no great meaning whatsoever, end quote. But later on, her campaign staff wanted to present a kinder, more caring Hillary. This is what she said. We watched it all in real time. The helicopters that landed in the courtyard of Osama's compound, our SEALs that attacked the building, the helicopter's tail that hit the wall but succeeded in touching down regardless, and I closed my mouth to keep my heart from coming out of my throat, end quote. But there's some problems with that, at least with the second statement, because according to the CIA director, Leon Panetta, there was no way that individuals photographed in the Situation Room could have been witnessing the attack live, because the feed had been cut about 25 minutes or so before the SEALs ever entered the building. In an interview with PBS, this is what Panetta said, quote, one of those teams went into the compound. I can tell you that there was a time period of almost 20 or 25 minutes where we really didn't know just exactly what was going on. And there were some very tense moments as we were waiting for information, end quote. Now, Panetta didn't break with the rest of the Obama administration intentionally in terms of the official narrative, which had been constructed carefully not to say that these leaders were watching the bin Laden execution in real time, but it did strongly imply it. The fact is the photos were staged, so this was absolutely fake. Hillary Clinton, again, faking reality for political gain. So that's nothing new, of course. Now, on to the next thing I wanted to mention about this wretched woman and how fake she actually is. She's long been known as a chameleon. She, with the exception of some of her more onerous policies like gun control and war and banker affiliation, she's willing to have one position on Monday and another position on Monday afternoon when it comes to wedge issues and discussions that are largely seen as belonging to a specific group of people. And that position changes depending on what audience she's catering to. Her personality, the tone, presentation will change with the audience, all that stuff. Now, it's not surprising that Clinton, since she's a politician, it's not surprising that she's a bit of a chameleon. But what is surprising is that her epic fails in her attempt to be portrayed as like the common man or woman haven't earned her more ridicule than they actually have. And it's surprising that Hillary, at her most phony, is still able to fool the members of the audience watching her speeches, despite her incredibly clownish attempts at mimicking their behavior and her cadence and colloquialisms of what she would consider the lower classes, because she is indeed a part of the aristocratic class. Let's not forget one of the most hilarious incidents of Hillary's mimicking veils. She was on a campaign trip to Kentucky where she attempted to pick up a Southern accent mixed with black vernacular and colloquial speech, because she was speaking to an audience that was both Southern and black, and as a result, she had to talk. She felt that she had to mimic them and speak Southern and black, and it was so terrible. You absolutely must go to YouTube and type in Hillary Clinton. I think the title of the video is Hillary's Negro Dialect. Just go in and type that into YouTube, and you can see her speech. It is I cannot describe how incredibly bad this is. It should have made everybody in the room cringe. She didn't seem black. She didn't sound Southern. She just slashed and shrieked her way through a quote of James Cleveland's "I don't feel no ways tired." She just you just have to go into YouTube and type it in. There's no point in me trying to describe how bad this is. But she went on later to try and top that. She took that horrible Southern accent that she is trying to perfect, because like a good psychopath, which is what she is, she has no emotions or feelings or any ties to a land or a people of her own. She has none of that, so she has to mimic the behavior of others. Now, some psychopaths are good at it, but some of them are incredibly bad at it. And this woman looks like an absolute shrieking clown, but she still manages to fool a lot of people. Now, she came here to my state, to South Carolina, and she was trying to make jokes about coloring her hair to an audience supporting her campaign. So, I mean, individuals that are supporting the Hillary Clinton campaign, they kind of get what they deserve, I guess. If you're supporting the Hillary Clinton campaign, you're not really you're not really proving your worth in terms of political activism and intellectual acumen. But still, her target this time was the stereotypical Southern woman, right? Since the campaign was taking place in Columbia, she was speaking largely to women in that group, but it was an atrocious outing. It was a little bit better than the Kentucky speech, but it was an atrocious performance. It should have been insulting to anybody in the audience. She said, I am aware I may not be the youngest candidate in this race, but I have one advantage. I've been coloring my hair for years. They are not going to see me turn white in the White House, and you're also not going to see me shrink from a fight. Oh, isn't that just wonderful? Isn't that just precious? Go type in YouTube Hillary Clinton campaigns on her hair color, and you can see that this fake chameleon wretched witch shriek her way through a Southern accent on that occasion as well. Now, just never to take second place to anybody when it comes to the question of qualifications. Remember, she's always the most qualified person in the room. She was apt to point out also that since all of her grandparents were immigrants, she was the most qualified person to speak on the question of illegal immigration in 2015. This is back last year. The problem, however, was that her claims are easily debunked because only one of her grandparents was a documented, meaning confirmed, immigrant, which means, I don't mean legal, I mean that we know that person was an immigrant. So only one of her grandparents, all right? So, again, she's mimicking the accents, the physical characteristics, the social positions of the audiences that she speaks to. She falls right into line with what she believes that they will accept. So that itself is right in line with her psychopathic nature. As I said, psychopaths are generally excellent mimickers of human behavior, but this woman's, I wouldn't call her an excellent mimicker, but she is a mimicker nonetheless. Despite the fact that rational people who think critically would be able to see through this woman's gaffes, unfortunately, such stupidity, more often than not, resonates with the average voter. So these audiences here actually ate up her horrible performances. Let's not forget to mention the sniper story. God, I want to mention the sniper story. The infamous sniper incident, where she told everyone that this was at a time when she was campaigning in the Democratic primary against Obama, and she was attempting to portray herself as more experienced in foreign policy than he was. And she relied on this story about a 1996 trip to Bosnia, and that was what she used to demonstrate her experience and her bravery. This is what she said. We've got her on March 17th, 2008, saying, I remember landing under sniper fire. There was supposed to be some kind of greeting ceremony at the airport, but instead we just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles to get to our base. And then we have, around the same time, she says to CNN, there was no greeting ceremony, and we were basically told to run to our cars. Now that is what happened. Okay, end quote. But that's not what happened. That was a complete fabrication. It's not true at all. Details of the event, as well as video evidence, we've got video from this event, revealed that there were never any snipers at all. The video showed Clinton and her daughter Chelsea walking casually from the plane to a greeting ceremony, which, remember, she said that didn't exist, and a young girl received them, and I do believe she gave them a flower. So there was no signs of tension or danger to be found anywhere, but when she was called out on her obvious lie, she responded that she misremembered and that she had a different memory of the events. Well, I don't know about you, but that means she lied. And I also don't know, but I think if I got off a plane with my daughter, walked casually over to a little girl who handed me a flower as part of a greeting ceremony, it would be quite difficult for me to confuse that with getting off of a plane and being shot at by snipers. But maybe that's just me. Okay, continuing with the Witch of the West, the Wicked Witch of the West. We must remember that Hillary Clinton has often bragged about a number of disgusting things. The bin Laden killing was only one of them. We have to go back to her career. Remember, when she was beginning her career as an attorney in Fayetteville, Arkansas, she received a request to represent a 41-year-old man by the name of Thomas Alfred Taylor, who had been accused of raping a 12-year-old girl who he had allegedly lured into his car. Now, Clinton accepted the case, she represented Taylor, and she succeeded in securing a plea to a much lesser charge. Years after that, she was taped discussing the case. This was sometime between 1983 and 1987, and the audio contained in these tapes shocked even many of the people who had already maintained a hatred for Clinton, right? She's been the most openly psychopathic person in American politics at a large scale that's since Dick Cheney. And it shocked a lot of people that even hated Clinton. They didn't think that even she was this bad, but trust me, she is. Now, these audio tapes, these were obtained and released by the Washington Free Beacon, and they revealed that not only did Clinton use a number of technicalities and devious tricks to essentially free Taylor, she did that while knowing full well that he was guilty the whole time. She even went so far as to slander the victim of the case in her effort to get Taylor a lesser charge than the 30 years he was originally facing. These revelations came out as far back as 2014, but Clinton continues to paint herself as a tireless advocate for women and children, ever since she began her legal career, which we'll be discussing in the near future as well, because that's fraught with evil as well. Walmart and Monsanto, for one of them. So pedophiles, Walmart, and Monsanto. This is the company that this witch tends to keep. Now, her comments on the rape trial were taken down during the course of an unpublished interviews with Bill and Hillary conducted by Roy Reed in the 1980s. This was a reporter there in Arkansas, and this was at the time that Bill was governor of Arkansas. We have the details of the case. Clinton was 27 years old at the time. She just moved to Fayetteville, Arkansas, and she was running the University of Arkansas's newly formed legal aid clinic. And that's where she was given a call by prosecutor Mahlon Gibson. This is what Clinton says in the interview. She said, the prosecutor called me a few years ago. He said he had a guy who had been accused of rape, and the guy wanted a woman lawyer. Would I do it as a favor for him? Then she says that, obviously, the early hours of, this is the case right here. That's end quote of Hillary, but I'll just give you an idea of the case, right? The early hours of May 10th, 1975, the Springdale, Arkansas Police Department received a call from a nearby hospital. It was treating a 12-year-old girl who said she had been raped. The suspect was identified as Thomas Alfred Taylor, a 41-year-old factory worker and friend of the girl's family. She apparently, we'll get into that later. But anyway, this Hillary Clinton mentioned what the ethical difficulties in the case in Living History. That's her book. That was her one of her many biographies. Because like a good psychopath, she has to brag about these types of things. This is what she says in the recording, not the book, but the recording. She says, it was a fascinating case. It was a very interesting case. Spoken like a true psychopath. This guy was accused of raping a 12-year-old girl. Of course, he claimed that he didn't and all this stuff. So she obviously, I mean, just listen to it, right? It was a very interesting case. The guy raped a 12-year-old girl. Oh, it's a fascinating case. It's very interesting, very fascinating, right? Of course, he claimed he didn't and all this stuff. Well, basically, she's implying that she knew that he did. But almost a decade after these events occurred, she was very casual in her discussion about it, very complacent attitude toward the client in the trial for the rape of a minor. This is what she says, cackling all the way. There's a video of this, and I'll give you the link in a minute. I had him take a polygraph, which he passed, which forever destroyed my faith in polygraphs. And then she cackled like the disgusting demonic witch that she is. And if she says he took a polygraph and passed, which destroyed her faith in polygraphs, that means she knows he was guilty. He raped a 12-year-old girl, and she got him off, and she knew that he had done it. And now she's bragging about it. She can be heard cackling at several points when she was discussing the crime lab's accidental, and I put accidental in quotes, destruction of DNA evidence to get this pervert and violent criminal off of the charges. Now, the public records of what happened on the night in question, they have the Washington County Sheriff's Office invested the case after the Springdale Police Department handled the initial arrest. It said it was unable to provide an incident report since many records from that time were not maintained and others were destroyed in a flood. We'd like to know what organizations Mr. Taylor belonged to, wouldn't we? Because it seems certain people can commit crimes and get away with them. And not only get away with them, but get away with them in a fashion that is clearly a cover-up that involves all kinds of coincidences from the lower level to the highest level to get these people off. I would wonder if Mr. Taylor is not a member of some kind of secret society or some kind of satanic organization or something. We would be interested in seeing that and seeing why the Wicked Witch of the West was called to act as his defense, and then the sheriff's office destroys this information, or loses this information. So we've got a 2008 Newsday story which focused on Clinton's legal strategy of attacking the credibility of the victim, the 12-year-old girl. Basically what happened, the girl had joined Taylor and two male acquaintances, which had included one 15-year-old boy she had a crush on, and they went to a trip to the bowling alley late at night, according to Newsday. Taylor drove the group around in his truck, and he gave the girl a bunch of whiskey and Coke on the way. And then they pulled up to a weedy ravine near the highway where Taylor raped the girl. And around 4 a.m., the girl and her mother went to the hospital where she was given medical tests and reported that she had been assaulted. And Taylor was arrested on May 13th, 1975. The court initially appointed public defender John Barry Baker to serve as his attorney, but Taylor insisted he wanted a female lawyer. And that was, of course, Hillary Rodham at the time. Hillary Rottingham, I guess we should call her. So according to the court documents, the prosecution's case was based on testimony from the 12-year-old girl and the 2 male witnesses, as well as a pair of men's underwear that were taken from the defendant. Now, Clinton went on the warpath against the girl. In July 28, 1975, court affidavit, Clinton wrote that she had been informed that the girl was, quote, emotionally unstable and had a tendency to seek out older men and engage in fantasizing. She also says, I have also been told by an expert in child psychology that children in early adolescence tend to exaggerate or romanticize sexual experiences, and that adolescents in disorganized families, such as the complainants, are even more prone to exaggerate behavior. She also says that the child in the past has made false accusations about persons claiming they had attacked her body, and that the girl exhibits an unusual stubbornness and temper when she does not get her way. Okay, end quote. So, turns out Clinton didn't need to attack the girl at all, and the prosecution would actually, again, conveniently drop the ball, or at least drop it enough so that Clinton was able to salvage her case. This is what Clinton was telling the reporter that's in that recording. She says, you know what was sad about it was the prosecutor had evidence, among which was Taylor's underwear, which was bloody. She wrote in Living History, her awful book, that she was able to win a plea deal for the client after she obtained forensic testimony that cast doubt on the evidentiary value of semen and blood samples collected by the sheriff's office. Now, she did that by seizing on a missing link in this chain of evidence, right? According to Clinton's interview, the prosecution lost track of its own forensic evidence after the testing was complete. It's what Clinton has to say. The crime lab took the pair of underpants, neatly cut out the part that they were going to test, tested it, came back with the result of what kind of blood it was, what was mixed in with it, then sent the pants back with the hole in it to evidence. Of course, the crime lab had thrown away the piece they had cut out. End quote. So she got permission from the court to take the underwear to a renowned forensic expert in New York City to see if he could confirm that the evidence had been invalidated. Again, from the lowest level to the highest. Isn't that interesting? So she says, the story through the grapevine was that if you could get this investigator interested in the case, then you had the foremost expert in the world willing to testify. So maybe it came out the way you wanted it to come out. End quote. So she said the investigator examined the cut-up underwear, told her that there was not enough blood left on it to test. She went back to Arkansas, gave the prosecutor a clipping of the New York forensic investigators' who's who, and she says, this is in her interview that with Reed, cackling all the way through this interview. She says, quote, I handed it to Gibson and I said, well, this guy's ready to come up from New York to prevent this miscarriage of justice. So we were going to plea bargain. End quote. So she went before Judge Cummings to present the plea. He asked her to leave the room while he interrogated the client. She says, I said, Judge, I can't leave the room. I'm his lawyer. And she cackled again. He said, I know, but I don't want to talk about this in front of you. So that was Maupin. She means Cummins. We had a lot of fun with Maupin, she said. And then she cackled some more. Reed asked her what happened to the rapist, and she said, oh, he plea bargained, got him off with time served in the county jail. He'd been in the county jail for about 2 months. End quote. So some more cackling from the witch. Now, if you want to hear the interview, just go type in the Hillary Clinton tapes into YouTube, or go look at my article, Hillary Clinton brags about getting a pedophile off the hook, and it's in there as well. Now, to this day, the victim still is resentful towards Clinton. Understandably so. She should be, for the way she was treated. And she ascribes many of the obstacles she's faced in her life later on to the trauma caused by not only the rape itself, but by Clinton, by the Wicked Witch of the West. And she was interviewed by the Daily Beast, and this is what she said. She said, Hillary Clinton took me through hell. I would say to her, you took a case of mine in 75, you lied on me, I realize the truth now, the heart of what you've done to me, and you were supposed to be for women. You call that being for women what you done to me, and I hear you on tape laughing. That's what she would say to Hillary Clinton. So she also responded to some of Clinton's allegations regarding the victim's alleged questionable behavior and her previous unsubstantiated allegations, and this is what the victim has to say. I've never said that about anyone. I don't know why she said that. I have never made false allegations. I know she was lying. I definitely didn't see older men. I don't know why Hillary put that in there, and it makes me plumb mad. All right, so if you're interested in reading more about that case, then go to Hillary Clinton brags about getting a pedophile off the hook. That's my article up at BrandonTurbeville.com and ActivistPost.com as well. So let's look at who is paying Hillary Clinton's campaign. How is she cackling her way to the White House? Now, she's been making veiled attempts at attacking Wall Street on the campaign trail for some time, but the fact remains that she's one of the most heavily Wall Street financed candidates in the race, and that is not just for the Democrats, that's obviously for all of them. Now, all of her campaign diatribes against the power of banks and how the U.S. government must focus on Main Street and not Wall Street, all that's clearly nothing but an empty campaign rhetoric that in no way has a basis in the reality of Clinton's own real ideology. Now, her 2008 campaign was overwhelmingly funded by Wall Street and Wall Street interests. We can never forget that it was during Bill Clinton's tenure as president, a disastrous tenure as president, that Wall Street received the benefit of seeing derivatives become fully unregulated, the removal of Glass-Steagall, the implementation of NAFTA, a number of anti-labor and anti-American policies that further destroyed the American economy and the working class. So before anyone argues that Clinton is not her husband and the tragedies of his presidency shouldn't be put on her back since she was only the first lady, we should point out that Clinton opposes the reimposition of Glass-Steagall, the bill that was repealed by her husband's administration, and that was so important in creating the conditions for the 2008 financial crisis, or rather the removal of that bill was important for creating the 2008 financial crisis. Now, in regards to Clinton's money from Wall Street firms, I would refer you to a good article, Delmaid, Wall Street is in Hillary's Corner, written by Daryl Delamaid for USA Today. And he really goes through a lot of this stuff. Much of the money is impossible to follow because it's coming from dubious nonprofit organizations that mask the identity of their donors, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce fights any efforts to make companies disclose their political contributions. The Chamber of Commerce also often acts as sort of a mafia sometimes. Now, we can see the tip of the iceberg because of the tatters of campaign finance law that are still in form. And obviously, we can see that Wall Street is still squarely behind Hillary Clinton. An analysis of one of the more recent federal campaign contribution data by the Huffington Post found that Clinton was in the lead in donations from Wall Street, and then it's grown so much since these articles were written, but $432,610 from bank executives, employees, and their spouses. The Republicans, Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio, didn't have that much. The closest one was $353,000. I think that was Jeb Bush, but after that it was over. Now, tip of the iceberg, because it doesn't include funds flowing into many super PACs and the 501c4 organizations like Americans for Prosperity that promote, that ostensibly promote different welfare programs, but really are just shams for political advocacy and that type of thing. We should point out too that all of this is on top of the millions she and her husband collect in speaking fees in the months prior to the official declaration of that candidacy from places like Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan Chase, other Wall Street firms. Those ties are well known, but this support continues. Now, we also have the New York Times quoting her own press secretary as noting that the goals met the bar to win her donations. The goals of her campaign met the bar to win her donations from hedge fund billionaire and environmentalist Tom Steyer. He donated quite a bit of money to her as well. Tom Nides, a veteran of Morgan Stanley, former chairman of the main financial services lobbying group SIFMA, which was the Securities Industry and Financial Markets Organization, was Deputy Secretary of State under Clinton. We should mention that. Robert Hormats, which is a longtime vice chairman at Goldman Sachs and currently vice chair of Kissinger Associates, was an undersecretary during Clinton's tenure at State Department. And we can't forget that it was Bill Clinton himself that brought Goldman Sachs co-chairman Robert Rubin and his gaggle of Wall Streeters into the administration and helped promote the financial deregulation in that administration that led to the 2008 financial crisis. Can't forget that at all. Now, all of this Wall Street money clearly shows where Clinton's bread is buttered, but, at least in terms of campaign finance money. But the facts can never keep a good Clinton down, and they never have. Hillary's gone out and blasted big banks and hedge funds and high-frequency traders and other types of those operations on the campaign trail. But then laughably, to anybody with any political judgment at all, she goes out and tries to present herself as a political insider, or outsider, I'm sorry. She's the ultimate insider. In fact, she gave an anti-Wall Street speech at the New School, and only a week later, she attended a private fundraiser with Raj Fernando, who's the CEO of high-frequency trading firm Chopper Trading, right? The whole affair was an exercise in deceit and a testament to Clinton's fake populism. So Clinton is a complete tool of Wall Street, and her tenure as First Lady, as Senator, as Secretary of State have already demonstrated that. But continuing on the discussion of the campaign contributions from Wall Street, we also have Clinton calling for expanded regulation of the financial system, right? She slams wealth disparity. She pushes for tougher punishment on individual rule breakers. All of that rhetoric is just that. It's rhetoric. If she really believed all this stuff, then I would ask, why have employees of 5 financial firms, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, they gave about $290,000 to Clinton's campaign committee through June 30th. And this is not as recent as we hope, this data that I have. But nevertheless, if I could get the date itself, it's 2015, so it's not as recent as we hope. But still, six figures from big banks, right? From people who are spouting off this rhetoric to harm them. That's because they know that there is no truth to this rhetoric, right? So it makes up less. They say it makes up less than 1% of the roughly $47 million raised by Clinton's committee that cycle. But that money, that Wall Street money, is increased. And it also follows the precedent that was set in her 2008 presidential campaign, where the firm's employees were the biggest donors, right? In fact, back in April 2014, there was a blurb in The Week which mentioned how and why Clinton is so amenable to Wall Street. In fact, that she's so close to Wall Street that the big banks see Clinton or Bush presidency as being about one and the same, right? We have at the time there's a report from Politico saying that the Wall Street has 3 favorite candidates, being Bush, Clinton, and Christie. And there was a Republican-leaning Wall Street lawyer telling Politico, it says, if it turns out to be Jeb versus Hillary, we would love that, and either outcome would be fine. We've also got Lloyd Blankfein, remember him. He's saying that I very much was supportive of Hillary Clinton the last go-round. I held fundraisers for her. So Lloyd Blankfein likes the Slick Hilly as well. We also had MJ Lee writing for CNN saying Wall Street is more than ready for Hillary Clinton. The former Secretary of State confirmed on Sunday what the political world has expected for months, 8 years after her first failed White House bid, Clinton will once again seek the Democratic Party's nomination for president. I'm hitting the road to earn your vote because it's your time, Clinton said in a video released Sunday afternoon, officially kicking off her campaign, and I hope you'll join me on this journey. Oh, God. She's, according to that CNN article, I'll read another part of it. As a New York senator for almost a decade, she represented Wall Street and courted the industry aggressively during her last presidential campaign, and there is a certain degree of nostalgia within the industry for her husband's two-term presidency, marked by the 1990s bull market and broad financial deregulation. Yeah, more the latter than the former, including the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act, which separated commercial banking from riskier investment strategies. So there is, of course, nostalgia for that. Robert Wolf, the former CEO of UBS America's close Obama associate, is backing Clinton now, says there's, quote, an incredible amount of enthusiasm for her campaign to get off the ground. He also says, quote, we know the secretary from the years of being first lady to the senator to the secretary, so we have decades of working relationship with her. I don't think it's surprising that the former senator of New York is close to the finance community. We've also got Alan Patrikoff, the longtime Clinton friend, prominent Democratic fundraiser, founded the venture capital firm Graycroft Partners, says that she has an enormous following inside and outside the finance world. He says, quote, there are a lot of people who perhaps didn't know her as well before who are all set to jump on the bandwagon. There is no diminishment, just the opposite, an acceleration of interest in her running for the presidency. So there we go. Now, we also, her Wall Street ties are being dredged out, and there's so many of them. They're so deep that you don't have to go very far to get a ton of good information on this wretched woman. Remember, the vote for the authorization to use military force. She did that. She has supported NAFTA and that sort of thing. All of that is reason for Wall Street to support Hillary Clinton as well. 5 of the top 10 donors to Hillary Clinton were Wall Street investment banks and were the beneficiaries of the Wall Street bailout. And we have 2 others that are Wall Street law firms. That's D.L. Piper and Skadden Arps. That's also there as well. This is another quote from another article from the Wall Street, from the Daily Kos. It says, quote, while the finance industry does genuinely hate war, and, don't believe that, the big bankers love Clinton, and by and large, they badly want her to be president. Many of the rich and powerful in the financial industry, among them Goldman Sachs CEO Lloyd Blankfein, Morgan Stanley CEO James Gorman, Tom Nides, a powerful vice chairman at Morgan Stanley, and the heads of J.P. Morgan Chase and Bank of America consider Clinton a pragmatic problem solver, not prone to populist rhetoric. To them, she's someone who gets the idea that we all benefit if Wall Street and American businesses thrive. What about her foray into fiery rhetoric? They dismiss it as quickly as political maneuvers. None of them think she really means her populism. That's because she doesn't. Anyway. We have Whiteout Press covering another Clinton meeting with Wall Street interests as far back as 2014, describing the political climate with Clinton. There's a number of interviews conducted with the people who attended that meeting. She apparently rushed in to assure the bankers and the financial predators and the hedge fund hyenas that she would usher in an era that was, quote, free of bank bashing. And that all Americans were responsible for the 2008 collapse. Not just bankers, not just the aristocratic class. No, it was all Americans. We all share responsibility. Apparently this took place at the Conrad Hotel in Lower Manhattan, a very luxurious place there. Some of the world's richest and most powerful people got together for what they said at times looked like a political rally. This was when Hillary Clinton was merely a prospective 2016 presidential candidate, but she took home about $200,000 as the minimum speaking fee. So Bill Clinton was there as well, gave a keynote speech to the Wall Street hyenas, and got also about $200,000 too, or at least a 6-figure amount as well. After she was introduced by Goldman Sachs executive Tim O'Neill, Hillary went on to reassure the crowd of bankers and investors that a Hillary Clinton administration would not hold Wall Street responsible for the nation's economic problems in the way that the Obama administration has. Well, oh God, what has Obama done to hold anybody responsible for anything except the American people? This is where we get more rhetoric. Obama has done nothing but support Wall Street and work for Wall Street, and Hillary Clinton will be that, but on steroids. We'll skip through some of the details, but they did an interview with one of the Wall Street insiders. This is a source for for Politico, and he says, quote, "It was like, here's someone who doesn't want to vilify us, but wants to get business back in the game. Like, maybe here's someone who can lead us out of the wilderness." And of course, he's talking about Wall Street, not the American people. He's talking about Wall Street. Now, let me continue to quote from this article from Whiteout Press. "Hillary Clinton is no stranger to Wall Street's richest and most powerful insiders. As First Lady, a U.S. Senator, presidential candidate, and then Secretary of State, she has literally spent decades courting them for political contributions and watching many of them grow up from their first years out of college to their positions at the helms of the wealthiest corporations on earth. And she's been a vocal and loyal supporter of Wall Street the entire time." What does this describe to you except the aristocratic class? That you would watch as a matronly figure, as these a reptilian matronly figure, right? She'll eat them if they cross her. But as many of these big bankers graduate college and move on to take over the helms of these big banks. That's the aristocratic class, clearly. All right, so back to the Whiteout Press. Bill Clinton administration was so pro-Wall Street that it was accused by many of being responsible for the global economic collapse of 2007-2008. Clinton removed the barrier between investment banks and commercial banks, allowing all of them to take citizen deposits and then gamble them in the casino-like financial markets. He also incentivized them to increase home loans, even to those who didn't qualify, in an attempt to put as many Americans as possible into their own home. Well, that last part, of course, wasn't the real attempt. It was to get them all in debt so they could crash everything and then take their little bit of property that the people actually had. So we've got to rush through some of this stuff here because we're running out of time. Now, Hillary's close ties to Wall Street are even pervasive when it comes to her choice of aides and cabinet members during her tenure as Secretary of State. In fact, two of these State Department aides, Tom Nides and Robert Hormat, are so scurrilous that they were given the honor of an article in The Guardian devoted to them specifically and to the revolving door between the government and banking and Kissinger Associates, of course. So Tom Nides and Robert Hormats have been between government and Wall Street for years. Nides, who was frequently described as a Clinton confidant, is a longtime Morgan Stanley executive. He served as Deputy Secretary of State for Management and Resources from 2011 to 2013 before he went back to Morgan Stanley. He was also the former chairman of the Securities Industry and Financial Markets Association. That's what I called SIFMA earlier. And the main lobbying group, it's the main lobbying group for Wall Street in Washington, D.C., or one of them. Now, then we've also got Robert Hormats, who was a former vice chairman for Goldman Sachs, served under Secretary of State for Economic Growth, Energy, and the Environment from 2009 to 2013. He's currently vice chairman of Kissinger Associates, of course, founded by mass murderer Henry Kissinger. Now, we've got Nides and Hormats both having a strong history of taking what they call pro-business stances on financial regulation. In other words, when they say pro-business, they mean pro-Wall Street in terms of financial regulation and a number of other issues near and dear to the hearts of individuals, the little people who support Clinton because of her poorly delivered rhetoric. Remember, Hormats Nides pushed for the Obama administration to, quote, find the right balance and avoid criticism of Wall Street in the aftermath of the financial crisis. He also played an important role in the Bill Clinton administration when he lobbied members of Congress to vote for NAFTA in 1993. Then we have Hormats, again, who's been described as Clinton's economic guru, boasting of the Clinton State Department's support of the business community in a 2013 interview. And again, remember, when they say business community, they mean big corporations, big banks. They don't mean small businesses. He's also on the record of being supportive of partial privatization of Social Security, which he touted the benefits of in the 90s, and he also supported wide-scale deregulation in the 90s, strongly supported increased trade with China. And again, back to Mr. Nides, he played a major role and still is playing a major role in Clinton's current campaign. He's been one of the campaign's top bundlers of contributions and responsible for raising over $100,000 at the time, last year, for Hillary. He's been tapped as a future White House chief of staff, and if Hillary wins, employees of Morgan Stanley, where Nides is vice chairman, have given Clinton more than $90,000 in 1 quarter at one point. So and that was fairly early on. That's more than, at the time at least, more than any Republican candidate had received combined from that firm. Now, Wall Street political donations didn't begin with her 2016 run. Remember, she ran in 2008 and was fully funded by Wall Street, and we're see if we can rush through this in just 1 minute. I don't know if we'll be able to get to all of that. Remember that you can go read my article, Who Does the Hillary Clinton Piper Play For? Wall Street, and you can see that she was heavily funded there in 2008. You can also note that Clinton's connection to Wall Street is not just ideological or financial. She's now connected with in blood relations. Chelsea Clinton's was recently married to Goldman Sachs executive Mark Mezvinsky, who's now a founding partner in Eagleville Partners LP, which is a hedge fund worth about $400 million, launched in 2011. And of course, we'll talk about the Clinton Foundation later, but that's another source of funding that the Clintons are getting, or at least Hillary's getting. It's from this treacherous Clinton Foundation, and we'll be discussing that probably at some point next week. Ladies and gentlemen, we're running out of time, but I want to draw your attention to, we have a candidate running now in California for the Napa County Board of Supervisors. His name is James Hinton. JamesHinton.org. You can go check out his website. He's running on platform programs. His platform is based on some of the programs that I've talked about, and we'll talk more about him next week and talk about how his campaign, he's trying to get Monsanto out of his community, and he's trying to fight for greater liberty in that area as well. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the programs and the demands that we want to make. We'll catch up on a lot of the Middle Eastern news, the Syrian news, the geopolitical news, and in future broadcasts. So come back next week, and we'll pick back up on that. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Truth on the Tracks. I'm Brandon Turbeville. We'll see you next week.
Ozzy Skateboard, and you're listening to UCY.